the tape for this, our main event of the evening. We introduce the champion, Chris, the West Side Strangler Brennan. Let's get it on!
What's up, guys? We're here to go over the recap of Bellator 290 and then a quick preview of the co-main and main event of UFC 284 in Perth, Australia.
First one we need to talk about, I was super sad. Jalen Bates and Jornell Lugo, super high on Jornell, still are.
I still agree that Jornell's a better fighter than him.
Okay.
I had him winning the fight.
Okay.
I had him winning the first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
And the third round was even close, but apparently there are new judging criteria. And I spoke to Jornell a lot after the fight and again yesterday or today. And he had said that there is new judging criteria. And I said, well, did they go over it with you? And he said, no. So I was like, okay, so it's just common knowledge. But I had, so he made a couple mistakes. He made a couple mistakes and gave up position in,
was it round 2 or round 3?
He did it in round 1 also.
Okay.
But he did it in round 1 with 50 seconds left in the round. So he dominated that round. His striking looked great.
Yep.
His ground and pound, he was trying to get shots off. Jalen was very good at defending, tying him up, and then landing short rabbit punches, short little punches. And he was saying that because he landed more strikes, although not significant, but landed more strikes from the bottom, that's where the judges are giving the fight to him. He let him climb to his back on the first round, and he kind of stood up, and they scrambled, and I think he may have ended up on bottom for the last 50 seconds, 40 seconds. The second round, it happened again where Jalen Bates went for an omoplata on Jornell. Jornell circled around. He circled around like 3/4 of the way, and his second leg didn't clear his head, so he kind of stayed draped over him.
Yeah.
And as he fell off, he started to go for a Kimura.
Yep.
He ended up got out of the Kimura, and he ended up on bottom. I still and he ended up getting out. He ended up getting back to the feet. I had him winning the fight 2 rounds to 1. Rounds 1 and 2 to him. Rounds 3 to Jalen Bates. Jalen Bates was tough. He was bigger than I thought.
Yeah.
They both looked little to me. And when they got in the cage, I was expecting Jornell to look bigger than Jalen, but I guess he didn't look as big as I thought he was because Jalen was bigger as well. Jalen looked like he was bigger than the last time I'd seen him fight. He trains with AJ and Antonio McKee at the Body Shop.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But I guess he's kind of reinvented his career, even though he was still undefeated. I didn't even know it was him when he got in the cages. The head was bald, and I was like, "Who?" They changed the opponent, and I was like, "Oh wow, that really is him." But anyway, I still had Jornell winning the fight. I would love to, like I said, I'd love to get my hands on him in the gym as far as training goes, and really elevate the grappling part.
They've got both these fighters listed at 5'9". I saw a picture of Jornell before the fight with his coaches. He did not look. His coaches must be gigantic then, because he did not look 5'9" in that.
I mean, they could be. Look at me in the group photos all the time. The only person I'm taller than is Rafael, and he's 4'11".
Yeah.
Bad.
So really, it came down to round 1, how they scored round 1. Sounds like round 2, everybody gave to Lugo because of the control that he had on him. Round 3, I guess they gave it to Bates. And then it was round 1 that was the wild card. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, I guess so. But I don't think there was any way that he lost the first round.
Yeah.
When the first round ended, I was like, all right, man, he looks sharp. He looks good.
Yep.
Blah blah blah. He made one mistake, but it was late in the round. And then I was shocked. I was shocked when the judges raised Jalen Bates' hand. I was like, whoa, really?
But did you know when they started saying split, were you like,
Oh, yeah, I was already like, oh, man, that's wild. But here's what was even crazier. Felicia O, one of the judges, she is a really good jiu-jitsu black belt, one of the first in America. and she was a judge. Chris Lieben was also a judge.
Okay.
They had some fighters as the judges, and that's when we're expecting and hoping that the judging goes the right direction.
Yeah.
But again, maybe it did go the right direction as far as whatever this new
criteria.
Yes, and I'm
is.
gonna need to know that very well before Luke fights,
Absolutely.
or anyone else fights
Yeah.
in Bellator or anywhere for that matter.
You said you talked with Jornal. What
Yeah.
what was his mindset when you talked to him?
He was okay. He was bummed, obviously. He
Sure.
said, we move on and whatever. He's a super spiritual guy.
Yep.
So he's
Bigger plan,
Yep,
more in store
yep.
for me, that kind of, which is awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
You love to see that kind of attitude.
absolutely. And he just said, I got to win these next two to keep my job. And I said, absolutely, So I'm going to back that guy. I'm going to back that guy, as long as he's there.
Yeah, that's awesome. The first of 3 for the main card, boy, Brennan Ward and Sabah Hamasi, that came out just like you said. Round 1 was a burner.
Yeah, so I didn't even get to catch that fight for whatever reason. I was trying to get home. I had flown home or driven home from Arizona, and I couldn't get CBS on my phone, so I was freaking out. I didn't know how to watch it.
Okay.
And by the time I got home, it just ended. That fight just ended. And I had seen a highlight literally pulling in my driveway of the end, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, man. I was like,
Yeah.
and then I saw Brennan's face also, and I was like, oh, so that was the second round. They had what I thought they had as a first-round fight.
They went after it. As you said, it was a right head kick. It was early in the second round. It was probably about a minute in.
Yep.
And then that brought him down, and then it was just on top and ground and pound, and they stopped it with 134.
He was leaking. Like, by the time he got kicked in the face, he was already pouring out of his face.
Yes.
And so he did what Josh Thompson once made the mistake of doing with Eve Edwards. He started kind of running away to circle and make space.
Yeah.
And as he circled a turn,
Yeah.
he ate a head kick from Eve Edwards to the head. And the same thing happened with Hamasi. I don't know that he was running, but he started to kind of circle away with his back to him and then turned to face him to throw something.
Yep.
And
And
ate
just
a shin and foot to the face.
Yep.
And then, that was a wrap at that point.
Boy, I was hoping for 3 rounds of that kind of action, because that just would have been.
I think I said it wasn't going to get to the second round, and it did, but there's no way those guys go 3 rounds. Like,
There's no way.
they both hit very hard. It's not like they both have good chins and don't have heavy hands. They both have heavy hands and good chins, but those heavy hands are going to.
So
end.
Brennan moves to 17-6 now. He's on a 3-fight win streak. He's got some good wins on him. And you're right, the guy is a specimen. When he walked in the gym, just jacked. Looked awesome.
And he said in his post-fight interview that he was not as muscular as he has been or once was, and he goes, maybe I'll get on some creatine. I was like, okay.
So and Sabah Hamasi moves to 17-11. Still, I think there's still a huge future for him. Great fighter.
Sure. But and the people that I talked to said that they still think he's the better fighter. He looked better and gassed.
Okay.
I don't know. I have that argument with people all the time about the Diaz brothers, because the wins that they get usually come when everyone else gasses. So that means the other guys are better than them, and they focus on tiring them out to beat him. Because Conor beat the crap out of Nate for the first 2 rounds. Dropped him 3 times in 2 rounds, but no one that knows Nick or Nate is going to ever tell you that Conor's better, right?
Yeah.
But in my opinion, he's a better striker.
Okay.
and just gasses. And the Diaz brothers, they focus on that. They capitalize on people running out of gas.
It's so hard though, because better is such a holistic term.
Well, because a better fighter, your conditioning is included.
Exactly.
It's
That's
tough.
right. And so if they may not be the better striker, they may not be as good on the ground, but if they can outlast you
Right.
and they're going to win,
Right.
that makes you a better fighter.
Correct.
Right? So, well, it was fun. It was short. It burned hot, burned fast, and it was done. Johnny Eblin and Anatoly Tokov. Man, I was really, really impressed with Eblin. He went out there and went 5 for 5 in that, and
He's way better than I thought he was.
Holy
he's
cow.
way better. And I realized that after he beat Gegard Mousasi.
Yeah.
But again, this time there are not a lot of super crazy athletic guys at 85.
Yeah.
Especially white guys. There are some freaking
Yeah.
nature black
Yeah.
guys like
Yeah.
Will are 155.
Yeah.
Freaking nature athletic. But he is super athletic, super strong, big throws and stuff, big giant suplex that put Tokov on his head but bounced right back to his feet swinging. Like, that was wild.
But that was wild to see Tokov roll out of it.
That's what I mean. He bounced right back to his feet and started throwing punches off that.
That was close to the end of the fight.
Yeah.
It was in round 5,
Yeah.
right? I've never seen a WWE style suplex in the middle of a fight before.
There's been some early on in the UFC, but not in quite a while.
Yeah, that was kind of awesome. Now that Eblin's got the belt, you mentioned this about who's the 155er in UFC. We're going to talk about him.
Islam Makhachev.
Islam Makhachev, thank you. I couldn't think of his name. You said with Makhachev, if he got it, he was going to stay there for a while.
That's.
I'm looking at Johnny Eblin, and it's like, man, this feels like this kid.
I don't know who's in the rankings at 185.
I'm gonna have to look. So I don't even know if Bellator shows their rankings. Let me see here. It might take me a second to get there. But
I can find him.
okay. I mean, just going back to what he's done while you're pulling that up, he's undefeated. He's coming in with some huge wins now, and really like this. They call him Diamond Hands. I love it.
So it's not a weak division, but it's definitely not the strongest division in Bellator.
Okay.
It's Eblin Mousasi, Fabian Edwards, Anatoly Tokov, John Salter,
Okay.
Dalton Rosta, Aaron Jeffrey, Austin Vanderfort, Lorenz Larkin, who's a stud, Romero Cotton, and Anthony Adams.
So his last 3 fights are Tokov, Mousasi, and John Salter.
Right.
So those are 3 out of the top 5
Yeah.
that would be challenging him.
I'm a huge fan of Lorenz Larkin,
Okay.
but I don't see anyone in this top 10 beating him. I don't see anyone in the top 10 beating him. I think it's going to be either somebody comes in or he holds the belt for a long time.
We'll talk about this fight coming up in a little bit, but you mentioned that the GOAT went on a 10-year win streak without being defeated.
Yep.
He is on a 6-year win streak with going back to in Bellator with 4 out of those 6
I mean, he's
years.
undefeated, right?
He is undefeated.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I want to be careful. I'm not trying to put him up there in that status yet, but he's undefeated. He hasn't lost in 6 years, and he's 13-0, and he looks dominant.
Yeah. I was trying to look at the math on how many times about he's fighting. It says Luke's got 7 fights in about 3 years. So, yeah, it's about the same, 13, 14, and 6 years.
Since 2021, I mean, he had some big gaps. He fought twice in 2022. He fought 3 times in 2021. He had only 1 in 2020, 2 in 19, so then it's going back early. So, I mean, I would assume that early on he's going to at least get 1 more title defense, potentially 2. This was a long fight, and so he probably, he took some damage on this one. He might take a little bit.
Yeah,
to
his face, he
recover
got
from this.
stitches and stuff after I saw that.
Yeah. Boy, when he came in and we started talking, initially when we previewed the Mousasi fight, looking at Mousasi and looking at him, I mentally I didn't give him much of a chance. And like you said, then we see this and see what he's done. It's just hard not to think that this guy's not going to be there for a bit.
For sure.
That'll bring us then to the title fight, Bader versus Fedor 2. And boy, you called this exactly how it was going to go.
Yeah, It was great to see him fight. It was great to see all the savages, the old school legends that showed up for his fight.
Yeah.
All the old UFC guys. Everyone was there that was like, back in the day, the best guys. Even some guys that never fought him, like Randy Couture. But, it was – Ryan Bader's very athletic. He's very strong. He hits hard. He definitely got into a mix a couple times where Fedor's punches grazed by his head.
Yep.
Those are game-changing punches, but
Yeah.
he fought well. And Fedor's, like I said, his chin is not what it was years ago.
Yep. It's cool to see him get in there again. You said it was a who's who of MMA fighters from both promotions coming in and
sure.
paying respect to Fedor, and it was cool. What do you think of Ryan Bader? It's obviously he's the only one to beat Fedor twice.
Yeah. And he's the heavyweight champion. He's beat Fedor's student at that weight as well, on that Arizona card that Luke fought on.
Was that Moldavsky?
Yeah. But there were a lot of people that thought Moldavsky won that fight.
Okay. It was a unanimous decision. Yeah. I don't know if that.
So I don't know. I don't know who'll be next for him. What's that look like? Is this? I can look right here.
Yeah.
Same.
Why don't you pull it?
So heavyweight, Bader, Moldavsky, Linton Vassell, Fedor. Now is out. Czech Congo. Haven't seen fight in forever. Steve Mowry, Tim Johnson, Marcelo Golm, good jiu-jitsu guy. He fights. He's the main event on Luke's card in March. Daniel James, Terrell Fortune.
So I'm looking here. Czech Congo, the guy to no contest in 2019, and a win. Actually, his last fight was a win against Czech Congo. And before
Bader's was?
Yes. So before Fedor was Czech Congo. Before that was Moldavsky. So he's already dispatched.
Right.
That's 1 and 2, isn't it? Or is it 2 and 3?
Well, he's 1. Oh, yeah, 1 and 2.
So
Linton Vassell is number 2. Fedor's number 3.
Oh.
Czech Congo's number 4.
Czech Congo's number 4.
Moldavsky's number 1, so he's beaten 1, 3, and 4.
Yeah. Yep. And who is number 1 again?
Moldavsky.
You said Linton
Vassell is number 2.
And he beat him in 2017.
Okay,
so that's probably your next fight. Just because of the time difference, you're talking 6 years.
There's a guy, Steve Mowry, who's 10-0. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it'll be real interesting. And we may have talked about this before, but I don't think I had remembered that Bader spent a lot of time in the UFC.
Oh, yeah, he was there for a long time.
Long time.
A lot of fights.
Great.
Against good guys.
John Jones, Tito Ortiz. He lost to both of them, but beat Quentin Jackson. Lost to Glover Teixeira. Beat OSP. Beat Phil Davis.
Did he beat Tito later in Bellator?
I don't see it.
No. Thought he beat him in Bellator later.
2011, so early UFC, but I don't see him beating Tito again in Bellator, huh?
Okay.
So, yeah.
Cool
to see what he's got going on. So that brings us then to UFC 284 in Perth, Australia. There are 2 fights on this one that you wanted to go over. The first one is the featherweight interim title bout, vacated by Volk.
It's not vacated because otherwise it would be for the actual belt.
Okay.
So I think they're just putting it on hold while he's up fighting at 55 against Islam.
Yeah.
But that would mean that he has plans to go back down. I don't know if he beats Islam, if he's going to bounce between the two or what.
So that's a great delineation there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Josh Emmett and Yair Rodriguez. This is number 2 versus number 5.
Yeah.
It's interesting, and I don't know. I mean, you got to look. Max Holloway probably like a word. He's ranked number 1, and I don't know. I guess he's got another fight coming up. I think I just saw him get a fight.
I don't know how he didn't end up in the interim title fight because I think the only guy that's beat him in a while is Volkanovski, correct?
I could pull it up and see, but I mean he's 10-2 in UFC, and the last one was a loss to. It looks like last fight was to Volkanovski.
Last 2, or at least 2, I think, were to Volkanovski.
Yeah, Holloway. So he beat Yair Rodriguez, actually.
Max?
Max did.
Uh-huh.
And yes, his only 2 losses, are to Volkanovski.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how that worked out. Maybe he's busy. But
I thought I saw maybe he got signed another fight, but I can't remember. I thought maybe I saw something. I'll follow that up and see.
I see Yair. I think he's a better fighter. Josh Emmett's a problem though. He's got that knockout power. He's got the heavy hands. He's short. I think they're probably both around the same size, but I feel like Yair's a lot taller than him.
5'11", Yair,
He is a lot taller.
5'6" for Josh.
Okay, that's what I
Emmett.
thought.
But the crazy part of this is
Josh has long arms.
the reach is 1 inch difference in reach. Yair is 71 inches and Josh Emmett has 70 inches. So 5'6" and a 70-inch reach.
Yeah.
That's a 5'10" reach.
I'm 5'8" with a 71.
Okay.
So it's kind of similar. Little longer, I guess. But I think if Yair avoids, the big power in the first round, he'll be able to kind of stretch it a little bit in the second and third round.
Okay.
It's a 5-round fight, so you might want to avoid the power for 2 rounds,
Right.
and land what you can and avoid the big stuff. But we'll see. See if he chops at the calf a little bit, starts to hit that low kick on Emmett to slow down the power.
Okay.
But I pick Yair to win the fight, but I think it's going to be a tough fight.
The odds are fairly close. -165 for Yair, +140 for Josh. So
Okay.
not
Not
a
too
huge
far.
spread on that at all. And that matches the rankings too with number 5 again. And sounds like what you're seeing here. Now, does either fighter have an advantage stylistically? Like if Yair goes to the ground, is it better for him there?
I think he'll be better on the ground, jiu-jitsu wise.
Okay.
I think he'll be better.
Okay.
But I don't know. I think Emmett might be a decent wrestler, but I don't know that he really wants to wrestle.
Yeah. So
with
Emmett,
him.
12% of his wins are by submission, where 20% of Yair's are by submission. Yair does have heavy hands. 40% of his come by strikes.
Yep.
Where 35% of Emmett's do.
Emmett's.
And
My
then it comes
microphone's
down.
Anyway,
And then and then decisions are pretty high level.
for both of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
40%.
I mean, you start to see that a lot when you get to the top anyway. There's a lot of guys that get a lot of decisions at the top because it's tough to put away the top guys. So
Sure.
we'll see how it goes. But I'm going to go with Yair.
Think this goes all the way?
Yep.
Okay. So this brings us to, I think, the fight that a lot of people in the MMA world are waiting for.
What an exciting fight. And what balls of Volkanovski to
Right?
step up and fight that
Right.
guy at this point in time. He hasn't even – I mean, I guess he has, but he hasn't defended his belt yet. He hasn't
Makhachev?
he hasn't shown a ton of stuff yet, but I guess he's fought a handful of guys before getting to the belt. But I guess he's seen enough, right? He's seen enough to think he can beat him, so he's stepping up to make it happen.
Talk about Volkanovski bumping up weight classes. What does that look like, and what do you think that'll mean for him as a fighter?
Well, fortunately for him, it's a 10-pound class. It's not like going from 70 to 85 or
Yeah.
85 to 205, or 205 to heavyweight. Those all have giant gaps. 10 pounds it's a pretty good gap. It's also nice to not cut that to last 10 pounds. I think
What do you know? What
he was also, when he played rugby and stuff, we
Yes.
talked about this before, he was a 200 pound, 210 pound.
215 or something like that?
So he was a big guy for a 5'6" guy.
Right.
And so I think it'll be good for him. He's going to be, the range is going to be, he's again another short guy with long arms. And I think it matches up well. I think it'll be exciting.
Yeah, this one is even more profound. Volkanovski is 5'6" with a 71.5-inch reach. Makhachev is 5'10" with a 70.5-inch reach.
Yeah.
So he's got Makhachev has 4 inches of height and is giving an inch on reach.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's absolutely crazy. What do you know what Volk walks around at?
I mean, he was fighting 135. I don't know where he starts his camp at or how long his camps are. I could imagine 30 to 40 pounds above that.
Okay.
Luke used to be 40 pounds above it. Now he's 30. 30 is a lot more comfortable.
Yeah.
Can diet off, through your camp, a lot of it, and then cut 10, 12 at the end. But he's a good size. I mean, he's a stud, man. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see his takedown defense against Islam, but it'll also be interesting. I mean, Islam sat Charles on his butt with strikes, so it'll be interesting to see how Volkanovski strikes with Islam.
You've talked a number of times, and I go back to this well a little bit, but I think it's so interesting when you talk about if a fighter wants it to go one way, they can win. If it goes another way, then the other fighter can win. Do you see that change of direction with this fight?
It's hard to say because I don't know Islam's wrestling background. I know all those guys can wrestle well, but I know that some of them are better strikers than wrestlers like Umar. He just got a really good knockout a few weeks ago. And so some of them are better strikers. Even Usman Nurmagomedov, that's the champ at 155 in Bellator, real good striker. Apparently has solid grappling as well, but he's one of the better strikers of all those guys. So it's hard to say what Islam's striking is really like. Charles, maybe feared the takedown, so his hands, it's hard to say.
Okay.
Right now, I don't want to discredit him at all. He's flawless. So until Volkanovski or somebody else exposes something, it's hard to criticize him at all.
If you were in Volkanovski's corner, what would you be telling him?
Man, you own that belt at 135 or 145. 145, yeah. Earlier I guess I said 135 when I was saying that he fights
was wondering, he
fights at 45, but I mean, I would be like, you're getting, you're defending your title a lot there. I wouldn't, it's very noble. It's very nice. It's very cool that he's stepping up. It's great for the fans. The fans are very excited about it.
Oh, yeah.
So it'll be really cool to see. I hope, if nothing else, that he makes it a hell of a fight. I hope he doesn't get run over.
So in saying that, are you worried that it won't be a good fight?
Oh, I mean, it could easily not be competitive at all. It could easily go Islam's way. Look what
I know.
Charles.
I know.
Look what Charles did to everyone, and look what Islam did to Charles.
I know.
And so I know MMA math doesn't always work, but when it comes to like 5 or 6 or 7 guys, then it may. And so it could be Volkanovski is the we'll see what happens guy. We know what Islam's going to do, right? And now we get to see what Volkanovski will do at 155 at a bigger weight class against the best guy in the weight class. It's a big step up.
It's a huge step up. So before, when you look at Makhachev's resume, obviously you got Oliveira. He beat Bobby Green before that. Dan Hooker's a big win. Thiago Moises. But then before then it starts to get kind of down, and he worked his way up a little bit.
I mean, even if you say the guys' names that he just beat again, none of them are like the guys that Charles beat. None of those guys are like the guys Charles beat.
Yeah, that's a really great point.
He had a way easier path to the title than Charles, than Chandler, than Gates, than any of those guys. Those guys all fought the who's who of that weight class, and this guy jumped right past everybody.
Yeah. So Oliveira, Gaethje, Poirier, Chandler, Ferguson, Kevin Lee, Jared Gordon. I mean,
and those guys all fought each other.
Yeah.
Those guys all fought each other.
Yep.
And he fought Bobby Green, on a week's notice.
Right.
Bobby Green took that fight on a week's notice. When he was already over wherever the fight was, he stayed after fighting and fought him. The next week. Yeah. Bobby Green did.
Yeah.
So Thiago Moises, that's a good win, but that guy, none of those guys have beat those top guys.
Right. Then you look at Volkanovski, 3 times with Holloway, Brian Ortega, Chan Sung Young, Jose Aldo. Mendez. I mean, he's
So he's fought tougher guys, and Islam beat the best guy at 155.
Yeah.
But that's where the math could come in.
Right.
So maybe he can't beat the 5 guys before him, but he beat that one guy. You know, he beat the guy who beat everybody else. So that makes him the guy. You know what I mean? So maybe he stylistically has the sauce to beat Charles Oliveira, but not the next guy.
Right.
But I'm not saying that. I'm saying that could be a thing. I'm not saying that it is. Like I said, I'm not going to discredit anything from him yet. The only thing I will say is Charles Oliveira and Volkanovski both fought better guys for the last 5 fights leading up to their title. And Charles did it while having the title. He defended it against all those guys.
Is there any way this goes the distance?
I mean, yeah, there's possibility, but I don't know that it will.
Makhachev hasn't gone past round 4. Like ever? Ever.
All his are stoppages?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was Thiago Moises that he got him,
Right.
that he took him to the 4th round. So that actually might say a lot about what kind of fighter Thiago is. And then if we look at Volkanovski, then it starts going. So it's interesting. 4 out of his last 5
Were decisions?
Yeah, but
Yeah, but he had Max Holloway.
3 out of those 5 were Max Holloway.
And they had wars. Like a couple people thought Max Holloway won 2 of those.
Yeah. Outside of Brian Ortega and Max Holloway, no one else has gone the distance with Alexander Volkanovski.
Brian Ortega was another great one. Brian Ortega got beat really, really bad, but had 2 highlight moments where he jumped on a guillotine and then jumped on a triangle against Volkanovski, and they were done dead to rights finishes, and he got out. He got out of both of them. Late in the fight when he was already super sweaty, super exhausted, and still was able to get out of both of them.
So, do you have a pick on this one?
I mean, I can't bet against Islam in this position. He's the one that's in the he's got everything to lose, but I don't think that he loses.
Somebody's going to walk out with 2 belts.
But I'd love to see it. I'd love to see Volkanovski win.
Between them, they have 48 wins and 2 losses.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's a lot of experience.
And both losses are from Volkanovski.
It's a lot of hands. No. Makachev's got 1 loss.
Oh, he does?
23-1 for Makhachev, 25-1 for Volkanovski.
Where did he lose?
Hold on.
In Russia?
Yeah, it was early. It was early on, I believe. I can pull it up right here.
ACB or something?
He's been on a tear. His last loss was I'm sorry, UFC. Am I looking at the right one? Hold on. Yeah, Islam Makhachev.
Who did he lose to?
Adriano Martins, UFC 192 in 2015. TKO punches.
Huh.
Early 146 in the first.
Go to that guy's record real quick.
Oh, this dude that he beat.
What has he done since he beat Islam? UFC's like, get out of there, get out of here, get out of here.
He hasn't been in the UFC since 2017. He's got Fight Nights Global. I mean, he beat Makhachev, and then he's got 5 losses and a no contest, and none of them. 2 of those are in the UFC. Then he got cut. FNG, Shudo Brazil, Future FC 10, and Copa Norte de MMA.
So he hasn't beat anybody since then.
Nope.
And which means he caught him.
Yeah.
He caught him. And I'm surprised that Volkanovski didn't, or that Islam didn't try to get a rematch. Like, give me that one back.
Maybe he did. And maybe the guy's like, I'm not signing. I'm not signing that one. So,
right on.
So yeah, nothing's happened. So all right, well, this will be. I'm excited. This could be a great UFC event.
Awesome.
A lot of names on the undercard or the main event that aren't super familiar to people.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be a good event.
A lot of Australians.
And when it comes down to it, those last 2 fights are going to be worth the admission. So.
Sweet. Awesome, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll get back with the recap when it's over.
It is all over, just like that.